This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate second and final part of What If Naruto and Konoha 12 found Digimon. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. All wasting no time, let's start the story.
A flashback. Hi Sakura, how are you? I'm doing well. Well, Hinata, Tommy, I need you to listen as well. Do you think that maybe? Yes. I would like to know what you think I ought to do. Roughly what? Inquired Hinata. Well, I suppose I ought to begin at the beginning. A flashback inside a flashback. It was Sakura Haruno's 8th birthday, and she was in a good mood as she approached, turned the knob, and entered her front door before shutting it behind her with a loud, satisfying click. I'm home. She shouted into what appeared to be an empty house. She called her grandmother, Yuko Haruno, who said, "Would you please come to the library, Sakura?" Yuko said, "I need to talk to you." Sakura took a trembling breath, knowing that her parents were on a mission, but she answered Yuko, her voice trembling, "I'm coming." She went down the short hall, turned right, and took the second door on the right, entering the library, the only room in the house where she was not permitted to go. Her grandmother was a retired shinobi with dark green eyes, brown hair up to her elbows, a white long-sleeved top, and black ankle-length black pants. She had a few scars, mostly on her arms, which is why she wore long sleeves. "Sakura, we need to talk about something," Yuko said with a somewhat dejected expression. "Sakura, I spoke with your parents, and the three of us decided to tell you something today. You have been misled ever since you discovered your own name. The doctors were misled when you were born, and everyone who knows you has been misled. You are not who you believe you are, Sakura Haruno Yuki. No, you are Sakura Haruno Yuki." But what is meant by that? I don't understand it, with a strained voice, Sakura said immediately. The Yuki clan, Sakura, is unique and the only one of its kind. It possesses a unique ice Kekkei Genkei. It started in the land of water, but following a protracted and brutal conflict, the Mizukage and the populace started to fear those who had Kekkei Genkei, and the purge started. People who had a Kekkei Genkei were feared, despised, and frequently killed. My older brother was killed. I was a member of the Yuki clan, and I'm not sure what happened to my younger sister. They lost the rest of the clan. Even though my younger sister is still alive, I was the elder and given the title of heir to the clan heritage, so even though I believe there may be a few left, they were not of the main bloodline. I came to Konoha in search of safety, and I met your grandfather. We eventually got married, and after I told him about my background, we chose Yuki, but only the Hokage knew that she was Haruno. A few years later, I gave birth to your mother. As you are aware, I was a shinobi, so caring for her and completing missions was a major undertaking. I eventually decided that I should take a few years off from missions until your mother was old enough to attend the academy. After some time, she did, and I knew I could rely on her to be safe on her own. So I went on missions once more. After your mother grew up and married your father, you were born around 2 years later. There is more, but it has nothing to do with what I'm saying. The Yuki clan's heir is you, Sakura. Sakura sat there quietly, processing what she had just heard, and Yuko concluded, "You are more like the other children than you knew." "Wait, you're implying that I am the heir to the clan?" she yelled abruptly. Sakura said, "Yes." She started crying. "I'm going to warn you now, you might not have the Kekkei Genkei, but it's difficult to say. The freezing of liquids due to your emotions is one indication of it. Another is that if you have a lot of Yuki blood in you, the liquids you touch will freeze, so you should have some ice to suck on." Yuko added, "I don't want anyone to know about us because I'm not sure if there would be attempted murder if the Mizukage found out. No matter what, nobody, not even your best friend. Not even Ino. No, you are unable to inform her. Everyone in the village could be in danger if anyone from Kiri finds out. However, your parents and I decided to tell you today because we trust you." Sakura said softly, still processing the heiress part, "I see. Flashback in flashback is over. I understand. To start, follow your grandmother's advice and use ice for water." "I already have." Hinata inquired, "Well, why weren't you permitted to enter the library?" "Because I wasn't supposed to know that there were clan scrolls." "All right. Then you should get some scrolls and begin learning how to use your Kekkei Genkei. If you train it, you might be able to use it in combat or even make your own jutsu. You might also be able to control your power and regain the ability to drink from a cup like a regular person." "Thank you, Hinata. So, just to be clear, you have a strong affinity for ice, and you didn't tell me?" Tommy remarked. "You could have told me, and maybe I could have helped you control your power." "I apologize. I suppose I simply didn't consider it." Like the 9-year-old he was, Tommy huffed. The flashback is over. After setting a few traps, Sakura pulled a light blue scroll from her pouch and unfolded it. The paper tore slightly as she did so, Alright, this will be a good start, she said. Using a water source for ice is the first step. Now let's begin rehearsing. She read the first line on the scroll. You can freeze any type of water by channeling chakra into your hand through the signs on your right hand and pulsing it out as waves of cold. Though it is beast for beginners to start with a bowl of water. She quickly went to the nearby river, returned to the tree, and began practicing freezing water in a small cup, without touching it. On the 50th try, it worked. She sat there, breathing heavily, before getting up. After you can freeze water, you should attempt to freeze it into a shape. Alright, what's next? She then returned to the stream and spent the next hour trying to freeze the water, and trying, and, well, you get the idea. After what seemed like an endless number of attempts, she eventually succeeded in getting tiny square blocks. You will need a technique scroll to learn the techniques once it can be shaped. Yuki, the first head of the Yuki clan, created the scroll. 2 hours later, Sakura exclaimed, "Yay! Woohoo! I did it! Fantastic work, Sakura, yay, really great! Many thanks, everyone, and thanks for our conversation yesterday, Hinata." "Well, no issue." Tommy inquired, "Sakura, do you have another scroll?" "Yeah, I have 3 more, each of which is getting harder." I briefly glanced at them. "Well then you should start practicing, while no one can see or hear you doing it. I've actually stopped lying about my ancestry. The people I trust the most will be the ones I tell." "For you, good," Hinata said. Sakura had trusted her enough to tell her first, so she blushed a little. "Well, Kiba and Shino are staring at me strangely. I should let them know I'm okay now." "Alright. And since I began exhibiting symptoms of the Kekkei Genkai, I've been considering trying a technique, which I believe I'm going to start." "Goodbye. Let's talk later," Hinata said. "Tell me if Naruto is okay," and then there was silence. Sakura kept on practicing. She began to try to figure out how to control them so they would move after creating squares that were larger by roughly 3 inches on each side. She opened the first technique scroll and attempted to begin working on the first technique after an hour had passed with no progress. She learned 3/4 of the jutsu after 3 hours of practice. She had then begun another. Before returning to sit with her 2 teammates, she attempted one more thing with her Kekkei Genkai. She tried freezing a living thing or voluntarily creating ice on something. She was able to create enough ice to cover the little space beneath the tree where she and the boys were staying with half an inch of ice. She spent several minutes staring at it, feeling quite pleased with herself. Sakura was so exhausted that she wanted to faint, but she was unable to do so because she could hear whispers in the words, "attack," and "daybreak." It was 5 minutes until daybreak when she finally got comfortable enough to sleep. She sat there half asleep until she noticed someone moving in the distance, shattering a whole sheet between 2 tree roots. As the enemy of 3 approached, she smirked as they found her fake trap. Her grin got bigger when the paper bomb she had set 1 foot to the left detonated. She exclaimed, "I bet you didn't see that coming," while Dosu, Kin, and Zaku, the 3 ninja, were getting better. The girl cut a string of ninja wire attached to a kunai, and a log fell in their direction as the 3 ninja jumped into the air, preparing to attack her directly. They demolished it right away, but she was foresighted and set up a similar trap a few seconds later. Shikamaru and Ino were bickering on the ground as Choji sat in a tree. Sakura and Naruto might be losers, but Sasuke is unbeatable. So by insulting the entire team you insult him. Take back what you said. "I don't get why you think you need to marry that Uchiha kid, he's too stuck up," Zoe replied. Shikamaru said, "All right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to aggravate you. Hey guys, Sasuke is out cold, and so is Naruto, and Sakura is fighting." Ino hopped up onto the tree branch and asked, "What?" While glancing in Choji's direction, she let out a gasp. Sakura was holding a kunai there. Naruto and Sasuke were also unconscious. The ninja flew backwards and away from the shelter after being hit directly this time. Zaku remarked, "Dang. This kunoichi has some brains." Sakura swiftly removed another light blue scroll from which she had been practicing. 1. Ice release. The method of a snowstorm. Freeze the tiny water molecules in the atmosphere to create snow. Up to 3 feet of snow can be removed with this technique if you have enough chakra and practice. Sakura gave the scroll a threatening glance. Once more, she could only reach an inch of snow before erecting the ice barrier. This was not going to work, she sighed. She needed to come up with another plan, and as she considered it, she considered the last thing she could do to keep her teammates by her side. She noticed that the ninja were 10 feet from the tree when she looked out. She had a plan, but it would require nearly all of her remaining chakra to execute. When she saw the ninja begin to move forward, she exclaimed, "What do I do?" And made the decision to act immediately. She took out a second scroll and read the second jutsu again. She walked to the tree's edge, stood, made the necessary hand signals, and she cried out, "Ice release, ICECICLE barrage." 3 seconds later, ice slowly formed into needle, like senbons in the nearby river's water. Trying to stay awake, Sakura staggered. She overcame her vertigo and turned to gaze at the shards of broken ice on the floor. As the 3 ninja lay there panting on top of the ice shards, she noticed that they were bleeding. Some of the shards were stained red from blood. That had to have gotten them. As the 3 of them began to stand, Dosu's annoyed voice uttered, "Not quite." Standing behind a bush, Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji observed the damage. Broken ice everywhere, some of it red from the enemy shinobi's blood. Ino questioned, "She did all that?" According to Shikamaru, "I'd assume so. I saw it. It was like the ice suddenly started to move, cutting the enemy," Choji replied. Sakura exclaimed, "That had to have gotten them." Dosu's annoyed voice said, "Not quite," as the 3 enemy nin began to stand up. "What? No way. How heck did you survive my jutsu? It wasn't supposed to shatter, was it? The whole point was to cut us to the point of either passing out or dying of blood loss. But using my sound waves I was able to shatter it, and therefore it didn't work to its full extent." Sakura's kunai pouch flashed into her hand. However, Kin had already grabbed her hair and pinned her with it, so it was too late for her to do anything. "Ino, what do you want to do? It's 3 against 1, she'll be decimated," Shikamaru replied. Ino exclaimed, "Why are you asking me? Weren't the 2 of you friends before?" She turned back to the battle and saw Sakura make a few hand signals. "Yay, but she destroyed it. Why would I want to help someone that ruined our friendship?" she said. "Come on," exclaimed Sakura. Sakura attempted to freeze the ninja gripping her hair, but Ino gasped. Sakura cried and said to herself, "Grr, I didn't practice for nothing. I can do this. Please, I need to do this." Zaku began walking toward the tree and remarked, "I think it's about time I killed Sasuke." "Weren't the 2 of you friends before?" Sakura's head turned slightly as she heard the words, "Yay, but she destroyed it. Why would I want to help someone that ruined our friendship?" Her eyes were watering, but she held back the tears. Pulling on her hair more firmly, the kin yelled, "Don't you move, dang. I don't have enough chakra to freeze her without water on her." Sakura watched the ninja anxiously as no ice formed while she performed a few hand signals. Sakura growled and said, "Okay, that's it." She pretended to be aiming at one of the other enemy nin as she withdrew her hand from her kunai pouch. "Sakura, you're capable," Hinata gave her assurance. A surge of chakra shot through Sakura's body. "Getting one of them won't do you any good," Kin replied. But just as she was about to toss it, her hand flashed behind her head, and she thrust the kunai up, slicing through her hair, and her eyes widened. Zaku halted as the kin retreated. Even though Sakura had some energy and some chakra she could use, she still stumbled on the broken ice after managing to get to her feet with the new chakra in her system. The kin said, "It won't help you to get one of them," but just as she was about to toss it, her hand flashed behind her head, and she thrust the kunai up, slicing through her hair, and her eyes widened. Ino recalled a moment. "You know what I just learned? Sasuke prefers girls with long hair, so the enemy can kill them and reduce his fanbase when they become ninjas." Zaku halted, and Kin stumbled back. Sakura was able to stand up, stumbling across the broken ice. "I don't care what it takes. I've always stood back and watched as others protected me, but this time, it's all up to me, and I won't let them down, or I'll die protecting them," Sakura growled. "This could be enjoyable," Kin remarked. "Oh please Ino. Please. Tommy, and even I'm begging you. Help her," Zoe begged. "This could be enjoyable," Kin remarked. "Are you sure?" Sakura exclaimed as she hurried to the tree, unfrozen her water canister, and poured all of the water onto Kin. After making the appropriate hand signals, the ninja's body froze, immobilizing her until the ice melted. Sakura took her larger cup of water and asked, "Who's next?" However, she was still weak from her previous jutsu, and she lost her hold on the cup when she was attacked by a gust of wind. "Sorry girlie, but you've just run out of luck," Zaku replied. Then he pulled out 3 kunai and aimed. After Sakura made the hand signals for the substitution jutsu, she vanished, leaving a big chunk of tree in her place. She then quickly appeared close to the river, where she found a piece of wood that could hold at least a gallon of water, filled it up, and hurried back to discover Zaku was once more moving towards Sasuke. She screamed, "Oh no you don't," and splashed him with water before performing the necessary hand signals once more and freezing him. However, Dosu approached her from behind while she was preoccupied with Zaku. Her ears started to bleed, and she screamed. She became dizzy and her vision blurred, and she fell helplessly to her knees. She couldn't tell, but she thought she might have heard Tommy and Hinata shout for her. Sakura collapsed to her knees as Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji watched as blood poured freely from her ears. After trying to stay awake for a minute, she passed out. She didn't freeze Dosu, so he went for the kill. No, Ino shouted as he leapt out from behind a bush to stand between Sakura and the adversary. As he pulled Choji along by the scarf, Shikamaru was able to emerge from behind the bush and say, "We were the best of friends, and she purposely destroyed our friendship. But even if I am mad at her still, I won't watch her die. No, it's suicide. Let go of my scarf." Choji halted his motion upon hearing ice crack. "Is that what I think it is?" Shikamaru let out a sigh. "If you mean the enemy ninja breaking out of the ice, yes." Choji yelled, "I'm so out of here," as he attempted to flee, but Shikamaru grabbed his scarf. "Oh no you don't," expressed Shikamaru. Kin emerged fully from the ice. "Oh I don't know, it's better to be alive than dead, agree fatty?" Choji questioned, "Did you just say what I think you said?" "Fatty? Fat is not a nice term," JP shouted. Choji cried out, "I'm not fat. I'm chubby," but froze when a surge of darkness struck him. What is that? That dark chakra. Whose is it?" "It's Sasuke," exclaimed Ino. Shikamaru questioned, "So I guess he's not so perfect after all, huh Ino?" "S. Sasuke." She felt a sense of dread as Sasuke's body exuded a dark chakra. The sensation that the chakra sends isn't normal, so this isn't good. With the dark chakra whirling around him, Sasuke rose to his feet. He noticed Sakura when he looked around. Hair much shorter, scratches everywhere, and bleeding ears. Deathly calmly, Sasuke asked, "Who did that to Sakura? Who did it?" Kin sneered. "Why would any of us tell you?" But Sasuke didn't have to do anything because Kin and Dosu left, dropping the scroll behind them and dragging Zaku along. "Because I'll just pick you down one by one if you don't." "So who's first?" Sasuke was surrounded by an evil chakra that grew thicker before abruptly fading. "Shikamaru you check Naruto. Choji you check Sasuke. I'll get Sakura," Ino screamed. Then she started walking in Sakura's direction. Shikamaru approached and jabbed at Naruto, but he recoiled when he uttered an angry utterance. Yes, it kind of went on and on. "Shut up you old fluffball." "Oh yay well I'll prove I'm better than you think." Sakura tried to stand up and said, "I'm fine." At last she settled herself into a sitting position. Ino sat down in front of Sakura and said, "You should lay back down. You've used a lot of chakra and energy." When Sakura recalled what Ino had said earlier, she burst into tears. She leapt forward and gave Ino a hug. She cried and said, "Ino, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Ino said, "Sorry about what?" Shikamaru approached, and both he and Choji observed. I lied. I broke our friendship over a stupid secret I wasn't allowed to tell." "Why don't you start at the beginning?" "All right." She then described to Ino the conversation she had with her grandmother that day, her tears lessening as she went along, and Ino started to comprehend. And then that day. Rewind Sakura, age 11, was standing by the bench where she had instructed Ino to meet her. The hardest thing she had ever had to do was what she was doing today. Ino joyfully exclaimed, "Hey Sakura," as she went to meet her best friend. "Hi Ino," Sakura said in a somewhat dejected tone, maintaining as much of her neutral demeanor as she could. Her recited speech then began. "I want to talk to you. I heard you like Sasuke." Ino said, "Yay what of it?" Sakura tried to break off her friendship with Ino by saying, "Yay? Well he's mine," while trying not to cry. "No. He's mine so leave him alone." Pulling the ribbon from her hair, Sakura yelled, "Well then I guess we're rivals starting now. Here's the ribbon you gave me. Take it back," before returning it to Ino. Then, because it would ruin her whole plan, she fled without letting Ino see her cry. "I apologize, Ino. Simply put, you were such a significant friend that I almost told you the secret too many times. What made me need to be such a big mouth?" She struck the fence next to her with her fist. Then she locked herself in her room and sobbed all the way home. "Okay, so I know she did it because she truly thought she liked Sasuke and had a slight crush on him, but would you really break up with someone just because you both like the same guy? I wouldn't, so I chose this to explain why she did it. The flashback has ended. Why? You broke my heart in two just so you wouldn't tell me some big secret? It could have put the entire village, including you, in danger. If that secret got out everyone could have been." Ino intervened. Nobody interrupted. Sakura gazed up at her with drooping eyes and said, I understand. I get why you did it, and by making us rivals you were able to not only protect the village and me, but it also made both of us stronger, because if I hadn't been trying to keep ahead of you all the time then I wouldn't have worked so hard and grown so strong. I'm glad you understand. Forgive me? Ino smiled and said, yay. With that finally off her chest, Sakura smiled and let herself fall. Well, I guess you two didn't have to fight after all. She never truly liked Sasuke, what a drag. Shikamaru sighed. I promise that if I hear that phrase again, I'm going to murder the person who said it, Ino declared. Voice. Naruto shouted in his sleep, grr, I'm not as bad as Shikamaru and his, what a drag, phrase. In the mindscape of Neji, Takuya said, Naruto, you're going to die. Returning to reality. Slowly, Ino said, did he just say what I think he said? After glancing at the sleeping boy, Shikamaru made the decision to protect him from Ino's wrath. No, he said, what a grab, he must be dreaming about ramen. Yay, that sounds right, ramen, right Choji? Choji gave his best friend a strange look, but he accepted it, yup ramen. Ino gave them a suspicious look but ignored it. She noticed that Sasuke was unconscious when she turned to her left, and that Sakura was sleeping when she looked down into her lap. She lifted the limp Sakura to her feet and said, well, we had better get these two under the tree with Naruto. Choji, you get Sasuke. Having learned not to contradict Ino, Choji said, yes ma'am. The last time he did it, he ended up with his clothes torn, his hair cut unevenly, and numerous scratches on his body. He didn't want to experience that again. He then lifted Sasuke onto his shoulder, carried him to the tree, and placed him down beneath it. Sakura was placed next to her two teammates, and Ino remarked, Sakura is really light. You listen to me furball. Days, and I want. Plagy right now, Naruto murmured. For the time. My name is Yuto, not Runt. Choji questioned, should we just slap him or something? Shikamaru sat down and asked, do you want him swiping your chips? They all sat silently, listening to Naruto mumble, good point, until he stopped yelping. A snore was heard by Choji and Ino. They turned to see Shikamaru dozing off. No bad. Get back. Eat. That annoying kid. Kiba yay, eat him not me. Ino looked at her teammate and exclaimed, what is he dreaming about? She glanced at Naruto, but she quickly turned away when she noticed that he was surrounded by a faint orange glow that eventually went away and Naruto began speaking rather than mumbling. Naruto's eyes opened a few minutes later, and he sat up after a while. Stupid old fox. What did you do that for? See, even Neji agrees it was totally uncalled for. Why the heck did you do that? Oh, it looks like I'm waking up. Neji, meanwhile, opened his eyes, sat up right away, and stood up a few seconds later. He remarked, well, that was annoying, then turned to see Lee and Tenten dozing off. He took a seat again, turned on his Byakugan, and looked around. He discovered that Ino, Shikamaru, Choji, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were all gathered in a small area. He sighed when he saw a scroll that, had it been an Earth scroll, would have been what they needed. He knew that the group must have at least one Earth scroll, but he chose to make him Tenten because he knew that Lee would be made fun of if they took a scroll from any of them. In any case, he looked a little further and discovered a team that had an Earth scroll. He got up, slipped past his two teammates in silence, and went out to set some traps. Sitting there, Naruto tried to make sense of what had happened. Why are Sakura and Sasuke asleep? And how in the world did I get here? And why are you looking at me like that? When he said that, Ino looked at him and said, no bad stop you. Raccoon. I don't want to be eaten. You can have the Sasuke kid. Yay, eat him. She then got up and slapped him. What was that for? Shouted Shikamaru. Ino shouted, you wanted to give up Sasuke. Naruto walked out of the tree's protection without anyone noticing. When he returned, he was beaming broadly. He displayed a scroll from heaven. He held up the scroll and said, hey, look at what I found. With a joyful smile, he put the scroll away along with the other one. Sakura and Sasuke awoke a few hours later, and as a token of appreciation, they assisted Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji in obtaining a scroll from Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. Naruto exclaimed, we made it. As they made their way into the tower, Naruto's antics made Sakura and Sasuke smile. Anko exclaimed, hello, kids, from outside. The six pivoted. Nice job, you made it about a day early, excellent. The 20 genin who had escaped Anko's enormous snakes were confronted by the third Hokage. He took his pipe out of his teeth. Yes, it is now known, in my writings, that she calls forth snakes in order to maintain her favor. The Hokage is aware of this plot. He smiled and said, "Hello. I'm happy to say that every one of you passed this part of the exam. Well, you've almost passed. You're all very talented, and I must say a lot of you passed. But you see, there are too many of you. So in light of this, we are going to have to do a sort of tournament. One-on-one matches. Then those that win will participate in the third round. But before we get to the battling, I want to explain a few things." There stood Sasuke. He had pondered how precisely it had been prevented from devouring him right away after that strange Orochimaru had given him that mark and it had gone haywire. He went to speak with Kuchi because he was stuck in his mindscape at the time. He discovered that Shino had apparently been impacted by the evil chakra, which had literally been pushed into his chakra network, as he had ended up in his own mindscape but had met him through the portal that connected their mindscapes. Additionally, the material they had discussed was both unsettling and reassuring, as well as simply strange. Shino and Sasuke, however, were perplexed. A flashback. Sasuke entered his mindscape and entered his home. Kuchi had been given permission to use the spare bedroom. He was also certain that Kuchi would be there. A powerful energy signature that resembled Kuchi's had pulled him in and concealed the evil chakra from him. Consequently, there was no motivation whatsoever to even attempt its use. Kuchi was unconscious on the floor when he entered the room. As Shino walked into the room, he went over to check on the boy. Yes, Shino is authorized to do so. He inquired, "So what happened to Kuchi?" Sasuke replied, "I have absolutely no idea. An S-class criminal put some kind of mark on you, which then imprints on me as well. The weird power it lets off tries to take us over, almost succeeds, and now Kuchi is out cold on the floor. But then again, he does seem to be containing the dark power." "Yes, it does seem to be that way, but I don't see how. And how do you know that Orochimaru is an S-class?" asked Sasuke. Shino and Sasuke spent days sitting on the bed, watching Kuchi's sleeping form, occasionally going to get food when they were hungry. I read a lot. After nearly 3 days, Kuchi finally began to stir. He awoke gradually and eventually sat up, allowing a faint aura to help him stand. Sasuke inquired, "So what exactly did you do?" "I sealed the evil power away. I've had an experience of keeping the darkness from taking me. I was on the other side of the battlefield, fighting to get free the entire time. With the help of Loman and Jaeger-Loman, the power was bound into an orb they created, and I hid it. But it must have taken more out of me than I had thought." Sasuke said, "A little more out of you than you had thought, huh? We've been unable to get out for 3 days, and even now we are still trapped." They gazed at him. "Yay about that," they said. "Oh well. The orb is only a temporary fix. You see, in about 13 days, or 13 hours real time, the power is going to get free. But if you help me, we can seal it for a much longer time." Shino inquired, "So where exactly is this orb?" "I hid it, and I'm not telling either of you. Power corrupts, so I don't want either of you near it. I trust you, but just in case, I don't want you guys to end up fighting your friends. As I said, I was once on the other side of the battlefield, but what I didn't mention was that I almost killed Koji. If Takuya and Koji hadn't freed me, they both very well may have died at my hand." The flashback is over. Not only was the fact that Kuchi had previously been an enemy a little unsettling. It was strange, however, how he had handled the power. In addition to being perplexed by the process, Kuchi was still elaborating on details of their former reality. Sakura pulled Sasuke to the stairs, causing him to stumble a little. He approached the balcony that looked out over the battlefield. Naruto covered his nostrils. "Phew, Neji, Tenten, Lee, you smell." Gritted teeth, Neji uttered, "It's that annoying voice, again." With a, "Yes, I know how you feel," Kakashi responded. Tenten looked at Guy and remarked, "You must be Kakashi, considering the way Sensei was acting." "Huh? Did you say something?" Kakashi gave him an indifferent look and said, "Kakashi, don't do that, my team too." Kakashi questioned, "Is it just me or is that annoying voice back?" "Alright Kakashi, that is it. Rock, paper, scissors." Nearly everyone's mouths dropped open when he said, "Well, you see, I would. But I'm almost finished reading my book for the oh yes, 1123rd time." Kakashi. However, Kakashi poofed away to the opposite side of the room before it was too late. According to Sasuke, alright, he kept a close eye on the board. Kiba Inuzuka versus Neji Hyuga. Then Neji leapt into the ring. He saw Kiba improve his sense of smell before passing out. A few milliseconds ahead of his master, Akamaru. The proctor cleared his throat after coughing for a short while. Winner Neji Hyuga. Ino rushed to get Kiba before anyone else could threaten him. The board came back to life. Akamichi, Tamari versus Choji. Tamari came gliding down from the railing. Choji took the stairs, softening her landing with some sort of wind jutsu. Even after the proctor instructed them to begin, they stood and observed one another. Well done, Choji. You're making use of your time to get ready. Shikamaru thought, just remember how to accurately figure out her threat level, or you're toast. Could you think louder, huh? Koji inquired irritably. Akamaru added, yeah, my head is about to explode. Kiba would have added something, but he was still in both his mindscape and the real world. Being the least lazy Shikamaru had been since he was 10 years old and Iruka had assigned him to clean the classroom because he had slept through the day, Shikamaru simply ignored them while observing with his hawk-like eyes. As he stood there, Choji observed Tamari and concluded that her fan would be her primary weapon, something he would need to be on the lookout for. He needed to carefully fix this, but he had no idea how to do it because he wasn't Shikamaru and couldn't plan all 200 steps it would take to defeat her. Nevertheless, he had spent enough time with his best friend to become proficient at carefully planning a few of his steps. Shikamaru's grip on the rail was firm. He knew Choji could plan, but he also knew that occasionally his friend would try to do the right thing but would go against it because there wasn't enough evidence to support it. Or when he was called fat. If that Tamari girl started to make fun of him for his size, one of them would go down pretty quickly, either pushing Choji the human boulder off somehow or drilling the girl into the ground. Then it happened. Tamari attacked, aiming Choji artistically into the wall with her enormous fan, which was open 1/3 of the way, revealing a single purple dot. By the time you spot the third of these moons, the fight will be over. Oh, are you certain? Yes, without a doubt, since I'm not going to lose to someone as fat as you. With the chips being shoved into Choji's mouth and the vein throbbing in his forehead, Tamari knew instantly that she had made a very, very, very bad move. Together, Choji and JP uttered the words, "Fatty is not a nice word." Only Choji and Bushy Brow could hear JP. Choji was about to strike, but he froze in exasperation when JP began talking. He was clearly irritated. "I promise that sometimes you're more like Takuya than Takuya, so please stop complaining, Koji." Choji sighed, and JP stopped talking when he realized that his outburst had disrupted Choji's focus. He apologized, and Choji resumed his plotting. After one expansion jutsu, he attacked, but Tamari literally blew him away. What a drag. I already know how this battle is going to end, and it's not in Choji's favor, Shikamaru sighed. How can you predict the winner? JP has a small secret up his sleeves. What sort of trick? Inquired Kiba. A very shocking trick. I mean that quite literally. Shikamaru remarked, you don't mean like that night. That's exactly what I mean. Knowing what Koji was talking about, Kiba asked, is there a way to avoid feeling the effects? He didn't want to be shocked again. Well, I'm alerting Zoe, Tommy, Kuchi, and Takuya. The three had few choices, so Koji said, so then they'll warn everyone else, and if guys decide that you want to oddly have to go to the bathroom, then feel free to join them. I'm going to go outside with everyone else because I don't want to be shocked, Shikamaru remarked. Yes, I believe Akamaru and I will depart as well. His fur is still poofed out from the last time he came into contact with electricity. Alright, Naruto will be the first to make a move. The other 10 rookies quickly followed Naruto, who made the initial move by jumping from the top of the steps to the bottom. Everyone was staring at them strangely, as if the 11 were planning something, or did they just go to the bathroom at the same time? Weird, everyone thought, and it got even stranger when Kakashi pretended to be outside to the others. Asuma's perspective. Well, that's a little strange, but it's also a little spooky. I'll have to ask Shikamaru why during a game of shogi. What's happening? He heard Kurenai ask, and as he looked down into the arena, he noticed that not only had Choji's eyes turned brown, but that everyone's hair, including that of those on the balcony, was beginning to stand on end due to sparks. Sparks began to transform into tiny electrical bolts. I have no idea, I never taught him any lightning jutsu or anything like that. Well, I think I might have just figured out why those 12 evacuated, he said. Do you think I should get some people to leave? Perhaps. He was struck by a lightning strike and lost consciousness. So why exactly did you 11 evacuate? JP has a trick up his sleeve and we didn't want to feel the side effects of said trick, Sakura replied. Okay, so then what is this trick? Neji said, JP Warrior of Thunder, get it? Yes, I get it now. Should I go back to rescue Asuma, Kurenai, and the Hokage? The rest I think could get something out of getting electrocuted. Nah, they'll be okay. Naruto, you do realize that the electricity is going to be about as strong as actual lightning, right? Replied Sasuke. There was a squeak inside the building, and lightning reached out of the nearby doorway. Maybe we should get the old man out, and maybe some of the older people out too. Kakashi remarked, I think we were a little late. Naruto rolled his eyes and Takuya sarcastically said, no, we were right on time. After they were certain that the attack had stopped, they returned inside and nearly felt sorry for Temari. Electricity is drawn to iron, and Choji, JP had literally been letting the sparks fly. Regarding Temari, Kankuro appeared a little concerned. Her fan was unharmed at the moment, but Temari was a different matter. Fortunately, the proctor was the first to recover. She had a few burns, her hair had broken the bonds of her ponytail holders and poofed out, and she had some rubble and scratches from that rubble on her. Of course, it was easy to tell that she was still alive. He was among the fortunate few, along with Kankuro, who were not struck directly by one of the electrical bolts. The medical ninja arrived and transported Temari to the hospital. He cleared his airways of some of the dust with a cough. He declared, I now declare Choji Akamichi the winner. Not many people paid much attention, but Choji went up to the balcony feeling like his chakra was completely depleted. According to the proctor, anyway, onto the next battle. The board flashed once more, revealing a match that piqued everyone's interest. Yes, everyone is now awake. Naruto Uzumaki vs Sasuke Uchiha. After exchanging angry looks, Naruto and Sasuke descended into the arena. The room became much warmer and darker, giving the impression that they were already engaged in combat. As Kurenai put it, odd. Kakashi said, not really, as he appeared inexplicably behind the Junin. Kurenai gave him a curious glance. The proctor called for them to begin, and only a handful of people were able to follow Sasuke and Naruto as they blurred at each other. It's been happening lately. And it's a bit hard not to notice it when it's noon, a clear sky, but it's almost as dark as night, and almost 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Everyone in the area stared at him as if he were crazy. They must have been holding out before, because I have never seen them this fast. I bet that if you put enough effort into it you could move fast enough to keep up, Tommy responded. Yes, it seems they were holding back. Naruto, I can see, it probably feels good to use up some of that excess energy. In fact, he's also using his chakra. See the small indents where he begins moving, he's pushing a lot out to make those. And then Sasuke, he's always been fairly fast. Not that I've seen him this fast before, but he can't just suddenly make that much speed. He also seems to be using chakra though. Kakashi stated as the two fighters emerged from an especially violent battle. Sasuke was tending to a red gash on one of his legs, while Naruto was bleeding on his right hand. However, Naruto quickly took advantage of that and ran in Sasuke's direction. The boy caught him in time, and he was shocked to see that Naruto's hand slash had already healed. It now seemed to him it was impossible to put the blonde down. However, he could likely be crowned the victor if he could reach a point where he could kill him, sort of, because he was unsure of the full extent of Naruto's odd healing power. However, he didn't think it was possible right now because his movements were becoming slower, even to himself. If he had the time to at least wrap his leg up a little, he would be doing better, but he leapt out of the way of another attack, slicing Naruto's arm as he passed, and the blonde had to duck to the ceiling. Using clones he had been hiding in secret locations, Naruto closed in on Sasuke, waiting for him to launch the attack. Neji, Takuya, and himself came up with the idea for that after putting their heads together. Naruto kicked Sasuke into the air, causing one of his concealed clones to emerge and give Sasuke a boost. The battered Sasuke was then knocked higher by the second clone. Two clones then descended from the ceiling and kicked Sasuke in the stomach with their own weight, sending him to the ground along with a pleasant little dust cloud. When medical ninja arrived, they removed Sasuke. Kakashi gazed at the enormous hole in the ground, which was 5 feet across and 3 feet deep. The hole was primarily round. Well, I think Naruto won. The proctor cleared his throat. After saying, winner Naruto Uzumaki, he repaired the crater where Naruto had placed Sasuke using an earth jutsu. Many people watched the big hole in the ground being fixed, while others stared at Naruto as he returned, amazed that the dead last had defeated Sasuke. The next match, Gaara vs Zaku, was displayed when the board flashed once more. Zaku forfeited as soon as the match began after the two were taken down. Naruto smiled slightly as he said, Sasuke told me to tell you something, Naruto. He's going to come back around to kick your butt to the nearest hidden village and back. He was aware that Sasuke would be plotting retaliation. Furthermore, he was worried that if he defeated Sasuke, the crazy girls who always followed his teammate would start pursuing him. After Kiba, Akamaru, Sasuke, Neji, Takuya, Koji, and himself had had time to do their work, fortunately, they wouldn't be doing much to him. Bubblekin's 1010 laughs evilly in a corner. Sasuke shivers knowing what evil author is planning. The board flashed again. Shin Suchi vs Shikamaru Nara. While Shikamaru took as much sweet time as possible, lowering himself only one step roughly every 3 seconds, Kin leapt down into the ring. Until Ino ascended the aforementioned stairs. Shikamaru moaned as he pulled his face off the ground as she yelled, "Shikamaru Nara, you're going slower than a snail. Get your butt moving." Now, a gust of wind pushed the Nara with every word. He rose and strode to the proctor, frowning, while Ino returned to her starting position, grinning contentedly. Asuma, who appeared somewhat arrogant and pleased to have a pupil like himself, remarked, "Ino, I didn't realize you had a wind affinity." "That wasn't me." Asuma asked her, What do you mean it wasn't you?" He was wondering if he was finally growing too old for this kind of stuff or if his genin had simply gone crazy. Option 2 sounded very likely given that they had been arguing for nearly 5 days straight. He watched Shikamaru begin his battle, ignoring the mounting list of questions he had been asking himself. Wonderful. If Sensei does what I believe he intends to do, I believe he will begin to catch on. I wager that he will engage Shikamaru in a game of shogi and force him to divulge. However, I don't think Shika will give him much, only a few things he doesn't comprehend. He will then begin working on Choji and me, though. I wager that he will take Choji out for steak and take me shopping, even if it is Asuma's worst nightmare. Ino smirked when he saw that Shikamaru was holding a small ball of light behind his back, but I bet he'll only end up with one big mixed-up puzzle. Shika was at least making an effort in this battle, which appeared to be ending soon. Zoe concurred, yeah, it should be over fairly quickly. Since the best time to attack was at night, Shikamaru had been using these balls of light to prevent them from tripping in the forest of death. It was also convenient because the balls of light could momentarily blind the enemy, and Ino and Choji could carry it once Shikamaru had it the proper size. Before the light went out, Shikamaru used his shadow imitation technique after swiftly taking 10 steps forward and removing it from behind his back. Kin was confined. Unfortunately for Kin, he had positioned her so that her head struck the wall, shattering her skull and knocking her unconscious. He took a few steps back and leaned back rapidly. As the medical ninja began tending to the unconscious girl, Shikamaru let go of his jutsu. At a snail's pace, Shikamaru ascended the stairs. The proctor yelled, "Shikamaru Nara, winner." "Gosh, I wish that didn't drain my chakra so much." "Well, I have no idea how to make it use more of my power, instead of yours," Koji replied. He thought, "I should probably work on my chakra reserves later, but it still takes a very troublesome amount. I need to practice controlling my chakras, but I have a little more chakra than normal," Kiba remarked. Akamaru continued, "Yep, his chakra control pretty much sucks." Despite his unwavering devotion to Kiba, he occasionally enjoyed playing pranks on his friend. And when Kiba frowned, he got the response he wanted. But when Kiba removed the little white dog from his head and placed him on the ground, the dog became agitated. Kiba was annoyed with the puppy. Shikamaru was smirking to himself, and Koji laughed at him. As the girl picked him up, Akamaru thought to them, "Ah, there's a reason I love Hinata." Rock Lee vs Dosu Kinuta flashed on the board once more. Both Dosu and Lee descended into the arena. After the battle started, it was nearly impossible to follow Lee as he attacked Dosu with his incredible speed. He would veer erratically in the direction of his opponent, jab him, and then return to his normal form. "I don't get it. Why is Lee just jabbing him?" Neji responded. As Tenten realized what Lee was doing, he exclaimed, "I agree, something seems different, almost electric, ah crap." Zoe began, "Choji, Lee, and JP are linked, so that means," and the other 4 children listened, keeping their hosts informed. "Scatter. Everyone except Sasuke, JP, and Lee exclaimed. Shouted simultaneously in their minds. When Kakashi saw the electricity escaping from Lee's fingers, he realized he needed to take a short break. The remaining rookies also departed as fast as they could. Then, a few others decided that their departure was a good excuse to depart as well. Kurenai, Asuma, the Hokage, Kankuro, and Zaku slipped out with them to appear less suspicious, though Zaku was able to get ahead of the departing group and start moving before anyone saw. Guy's perspective, he had witnessed this not too long ago, when Choji had also employed electricity in his attack. He watched the others, including the Hokage, go, but he refused to go because he loved Lee, his best pupil. As the metal on Dosu's arm began to clearly spark, Guy exclaimed, "Excellent, Lee. Keep it up." The man was by this point becoming extremely desperate. Lee was essentially a human lightning bolt, so their attempts to attack and avoid being attacked weren't going well. "I forfeit," called Dosu. The man approached the balcony as Lee came to a halt. "I declare Rock Lee the winner." Kakashi and the rookies were waiting for the lightning to strike while sitting in the grass outside. Kakashi pointed out that each of them saw a shadow pass by. "You know, I think that Zaku kid just slipped out," Kakashi replied. "I would say that he's going to see his teammate, but he wouldn't have been so secretive about it. Neji, I think that perhaps you should stay out here and keep an eye on him with your Byakugan." With a, "Alright, Byakugan," Neji activated his Kekkei Genkei. "I will be tracking him. If anything happens then I will inform you. Takuya will also have Naruto inform you if I find any trouble." "Yes, exactly," Takuya chirped. Kakashi added, "I also want to know if you see him meet anyone." Neji then started to follow his target slowly into the heart of the forest, and everyone who was left was taken aback when the Hokage, Kurenai, Asuma, and one of the Suna genin emerged. "Where is Neji now?" Kurenai inquired. As Sakura appeared about to blow up and freeze the area, Kakashi halted, saying, "Oh, just out to do something. You know what everyone has to do." He could already feel the temperature drop by about 3 degrees. "Anyway, he'll be back soon." "I am a liar," Dosu called out to them from inside the structure. The board then began to flash, indicating that it was going to be telling them the next match, Shino Aburame vs. Yoroi Akato. Shino jumped down into the arena, Yoroi following his opponent's actions. As soon as the proctor told them to start, Shino lifted his arms, sending his bugs towards the man. However, Yoroi was prepared and used some smoke bombs that had perfume in them. "Well, perhaps we should go back in now or people will begin to get suspicious," Kakashi said. They agreed and went back to the places they had been before. Shino thought, "Smart, my bugs can't see or smell him. Too bad he's too noisy." He felt Yoroi graze his shoulder, saw his chakra was dwindling, and pulled away, but he didn't have time to find him because another punch came at him, this time on one of his legs, and he barely avoided the full force, though Yoroi's fist still grazed his ankle, visually injuring it. This time, however, it seemed that the man was taking a little more time to come up with a new plan and set off more smoke bombs. His bugs then followed the noises Yoroi made and swarmed him, absorbing his chakra to the point where the man was barely able to move. Shino Aburame is the winner. As the smoke cleared and Yoroi was seen twitching while lying there, the proctor said, and Shino approached him while being cautious of his ankle. Shino said, "Your bombs were clever, but next time be a little quieter." And then he went up the stairs to the balcony. The board displayed the next battle, Tenten vs. Masumi Tsurugi, and Neji went down into the arena and got right into it. Masumi attacked with his strange stretchy limbs, and Tenten turned him into a pincushion with one weapon scroll. He screamed in agony as his body stung from all of the sharp, metallic objects that Tenten had thrust through him. "Through?" everyone asked, but Masumi didn't give up. In fact, he continued strong, and Tenten pulled out a sword. As Takuya yelled, Neji sighed and asked, "What did you do this time?" Masumi deflected a weapon that had flown randomly in his direction, and Neji avoided it. "Hey, brat, quit that. I'll eat you, I promise, if you even consider trying that again." I tried to touch Kyuubi's fur again. Neji let out a sigh as Tenten's opponent fell and Tenten returned to the balcony to be pronounced the winner, looking a little bruised, but nothing that a day or two couldn't mend. "What's causing your sigh?" she questioned him, Takuya. "Oh, this time, what did he do?" Can't tell you that. If the blonde idiot ever decides to tell, it's kind of his job. "Then, how did you make those weapons pass through him?" Zoe. "Oh, it appears that every member of our team passed," Neji said. "Yes." Tenten acknowledged that the three of them had all passed, but she did not dispute that. "Gosh, all of that wind has sure made me tired," she said. "But I would say that is because we are all a bit older." Naruto said to Neji, "Perhaps you ought to allow her to rest against your shoulder." Takuya continued, "And ask her on a date. I can tell you've been itching to ask her out." Neji turned red at the thought, but he was relieved when the board flashed and the blushing stopped. Ino Yamanaka vs Sakura Haruno Ino, and Sakura went down into the arena and prepared to begin, with one hand on her kunai pouch and the other on her shuriken. Icicle barrage, snake, tiger, boar, dragon, snake, dog, tiger, ox, ram, owl. Snowstorm technique, dragon, horse, dog, tiger, monkey, ox, ram. No reluctance? Ino questioned her. Sakura responded, no holding back. Despite their friendship, she wanted a challenge to test her strength and determine whether she was superior to Ino. Start. The proctor called. Bird, boar, ram, dragon, dog, tiger, rat, hare, jinn. Apparent rain technique, Sakura said, pulling a kunai and throwing it at Ino to give her a window of time. She yelled as Ino got up from her dodge and threw 3 kunai and 5 shuriken at her. Sakura dodged most of them, but one of the shuriken embedded itself in her right arm. Bird, rat, dragon, tiger. The water around Ino's feet froze solid, keeping her in place, but fortunately, there hadn't been enough water to freeze the rest of her in place. Ino took out 2 kunai and 2 shuriken. Sakura wrapped her arm where the shuriken had hit her. She finished tying off the bandage and prepared for a little trick. It had been much harder for her to perform her jutsu with her arm the way it had been. There were still slight jolts of pain when she moved her arm to do the signs, but it wasn't as bad as before. Sakura was dead ahead of Ino, who was preparing her own trick. She made the sign for her mind transfer technique, and Sakura saw it and moved aside, before Ino pretended to pass out. Next time, make your fainting seem more realistic. I know that was a trap, Ino. With the way you were leaning, you would have fallen backward rather than forward. Ino rose and grinned. She lifted one foot and it broke through the mostly melted ice, then she stepped with her other foot. Yes, it was a trap, but not in the way you'd think. With a kunai in hand, she charged at Sakura, saying, "You see, I was just waiting for the time when the ice around my feet would melt. I knew I was almost to the point where I could break free, and now that I'm ready to attack." There was the sound of metal hitting metal, and Sakura was holding a kunai. Ino's arms were trembling as they attempted to push the other away. When Sakura eventually withdrew, she kicked Ino's stomach with especially force. As she slid 5 feet or so, Ino swore. After pushing her back a few more times, Sakura eventually drew her shuriken and kunai and pinned her friend to the wall. Sakura declared, "I've finished this battle." Ino was forced to acknowledge that she would have died by now if this had been a real battle. "I agree. It seems like I have some work to do if I'm going to beat you next time." Ino concurred. Sakura wandered the battlefield, occasionally grabbing something. The proctor yelled, "Winner Sakura Haruno." Sakura dragged kunai and the shuriken away from the wall. She also pulled out some sparkly weapons, which Ino saw. As they ascended the stairs, Ino questioned, "Sakura, what are those?" Sakura was examining the glittering weapons and sharpening them where necessary with a rough piece of glass. Glass senbon. Sure, glass isn't the strongest of materials, but they are made of special glass. Apparently someone melted a diamond and mixed it with glass, then made needles, or what are now known as senbon. My grandmother refused to tell me who did it, but she also used these, and because they're clear I can use them with my other weapons and no one would know. It's a clever way of pinning someone to the wall. Or if you hit in the correct place, immobilizing them. As they came to a stop at the rail, Sakura was heading to the next senbon to sharpen. Ino remarked, "Someone melted a diamond? I thought that was impossible." "Well, it sort of is. Well, you see, diamond is more likely to vaporize than to melt. It burns because of what it's made of. But I'm guessing whoever melted it at least made the air around it oxygen-free. Or threw it into a volcano. Either way, someone did it, and these are strong. But it also makes them hard to sharpen, because I can't use metal for fear of making them rough. And they often need polished." Ino exclaimed, "That's so cool." Sakura put her glass senbon in a secret pocket and exclaimed, "Oh look, Hinata's match is going." As the proctor called for Hinata and the Sunagenin, which made her think of a cat, to begin. "To be honest, my sister and I have decided that Kankuro is not a man. He wears makeup and a suit that, for heaven's sake, makes me think of a cat." When Hinata activated her Byakugan, she noticed that Kankuro was instead using his puppet and that the puppet, strapping Kankuro's back, was actually the puppet master. She took a step forward in anticipation of an attack, which she received. With a strong kick, Kankuro launched his puppet at her, but she dodged and repeatedly struck it with her soft fist. Kankuro was growing bored and worried that he hadn't hit the Hyuga girl once. He considered coming out of hiding, but that would expose him more. Even though he could handle her like a man, he was still a little annoyed when people called him girly due to his outfit and war paint. However, something struck his right shoulder, then his left, and he lost control of his puppet. His arms barely moved, and he was powerless as his puppet fell on him, making it impossible for him to advance to the next round. Without his arms, he was unable to escape his hiding place. After a minute, the match was called in Hinata's favor, and he was soon being removed. Tamari was still in the hospital, despite his belief that she was helping him leave. He was shocked to see Hinata, the girl he had been about to kill a minute before, assisting the obnoxious blonde. He was taken to unblock his Tenketsu points by the medical ninja. The third Hokage declared, "That was the last of the battles. I congratulate those that won their matches." Everyone who had won their matches stood there feeling content, with the exception of Shikamaru, who was only considering how difficult it would be. "In 1 month we will have the third round. In the month you will train, and work and do your best to get better so you can prove your skills. I wish you all luck." He was grinning. Naruto unexpectedly appeared next to Hinata as she was strolling through the village. She gave a little eep, then relaxed once more. Nice job, you surprised her. Oh sorry Hinata, did I surprise you? A little, sorry. Anyways, I was thinking maybe tomorrow we could go have that ramen I asked you about. Oh, okay, she uttered, barely able to contain her fainting. Alright, I'll meet you in the park tomorrow at 5, bye. Lee ran into Sakura while strolling through the town. Oh Sakura, I did not see you there. I apologize for bumping you like that, Lee replied. Oh no, it's alright. I wasn't really watching where I was going, Sakura replied. Oh, and about that date, would you like to maybe do it? Tomorrow, I was thinking maybe going to Ichiraku's and having ramen there. Meet me at my house at 5 in the afternoon, said Sakura. Well, alright. Ino was strolling through the shopping center. She had every reason to believe that Asuma would take her shopping in order to obtain answers. Half of the money in his wallet had already been consumed by her, and she didn't have any issues or regrets at all. She had purchased some exquisite clothing that she could wear to formal events. Ino, are you done shopping? I would really like to know what's going on, replied Asuma. When she saw Asuma staring at Kurenai, she said, I have one more thing I want, with a sinister sparkle in her eye. MWA ha ha ha. Zoe Evil chuckled upon hearing Ino's idea. When Asuma glanced at Kurenai, Ino pushed him into her and then hid. Sorry about that Kurenai, Ino pushed me into you and, huh? Where did she go? Kurenai questioned, I didn't see Ino, so how exactly did you bump into me? I swear Ino pushed me into you. I took her shopping hoping to get answers as to what is going on with my team and their strange new abilities, and she said she wanted one more thing then pushed me into you. Asuma replied. Kurenai gave him a look that made it obvious she didn't think he was innocent. Would you like to go out to dinner? Kurenai briefly had a startled expression before grinning. Alright, when and where? Well, how about we have barbecue? According to Kurenai, I'll agree to that. Meet me in front of the Hokage Tower tomorrow evening at 5. Asuma began, but my father will be able to see. But Kurenai had already left before he could say the first 3 words, and Ino had emerged from her hiding place. Alright, now I just have to get permission from the others and I'll tell you all about what's going on, Ino replied. Asuma saw Kiba after finishing his conversation with Kurenai. He had observed that Kiba and Ino had begun to notice each other more, and this was the ideal opportunity to exact revenge on Ino for putting him in such a precarious situation. He hefted Ino over his shoulder after grabbing her. If Ino's father had the ability to torture someone, so what, he was definitely receiving retribution. Ino was standing there. He placed her over his shoulder after she had set up her sensei, and then he dropped her next to Kiba as she was leaving the area. Kiba said, Oh Ino, hello, in an awkward way. I was actually hoping to find you today. He's awkward. Will he ask me out or something? Gosh, if he asks you out you will be so lucky, because as you know I've been waiting for a certain person to ask me. Too bad he can't exactly take me out to dinner now. Who is it? Because it could be possible if it's one of your friends. Well, I was wondering if you wanted to go out to dinner tomorrow night, said Kiba. Alright, I would love to, she said, blushing a little. Great, I'll come and get you at 5:30. Great, oh, before I forget, Asuma-sensei was nice enough to take me shopping with the fact that he might learn our secret. Do you mind him knowing? Ino responded. Well, so long as he keeps his mouth shut, and I don't end up in an insane asylum. Alright, I get it. Ino, apparently Shikamaru has asked everyone to get to Training Ground 3 now, and you're supposed to bring Asuma. Oh, and it's Takuya I've been waiting to ask me out. Alright, I'll have to see what we can do. Well, it appears that Asuma-sensei attempted to extract it from Shika as well. Yay, I would assume so. Now where is the guy? Asuma said, descending from the ceiling, right here. Perfect. You've got to come with us now. Asuma arrived and discovered Kakashi sitting with the other rookies. Kurenai and Guy were standing and observing them, but Kiba and Ino took a seat, and the meeting started. Alright, so we're here to discuss the reasons we should or shouldn't let the rest of the sensei in on our secret. I think not, because if they happen to let it slip even on accident then we're going to end up in an insane asylum, or they will, Tenten replied. Shikamaru said, 3-reason rule. Would he just forget the 3-reason rule? Zoe screamed. It's much more possible that we'll be discovered. Right. Concurred Zoe. Sasuke's words were laced with a threat. No, having Kakashi-sensei in our group of people that know is risky enough. And I swear if I get outvoted again. 3-reason rule. Koji. Would you get him to shut up about that rule? I swear if Naruto and Neji keep being annoyed my head is going to split. Takuya screamed. Stop breaking the rule, or I'll eat your ponytail once more, Akamaru said. Shikamaru gave the puppy a fierce look. Make me quit it, you mutt. What did you call me just now? Akamaru snarled as he lunged at him, biting his ponytail in the process. Mutt. Want to hear it again? After grabbing him and removing him, Shikamaru threw him roughly to Kiba. Shikamaru whispered, evil white little fluffball, and he thinks too much too. As Shikamaru engaged in a furious argument with the puppy and his owner, Koji remarked, oh, get over it. He's only a very smart puppy. Shikamaru and Akamaru battled for the next 2 minutes after Kiba was the first out, but Sakura intervened out of pain after witnessing their eyes dry up so much. Asuma, Kurenai, and Guy all stared. Did they gradually get to know Shikamaru like this? Anyways, Sasuke, we get it, but you can't change everyone's opinions. Do I get a say though? Kakashi responded. No, because you aren't the one suffering from a mutt that hears your every thought, and likes to try to eat your hair when you piss him off, Shikamaru grumbled. Ino rolled her eyes and remarked, well, it looks like someone missed his nap. Actually, I should be sleeping right now, but because of the ever-pressing matter of our sensei and our secret and the question of our sanity, well, let's just finish this, okay? Asked him, do we get a say? They should, everyone agreed, but Koji wants to know if they get a say in this. Alright, so Koji says no. Yay. Well, can we hurry? I'm afraid that if I'm not sitting back in the hospital soon someone's going to find out I'm gone and I'll be in trouble. Alright, you know what? We're just going to go clockwise starting with me. Shikamaru replied. Now I think we should let them know because then we have cover if anything happens, Ino. I think we should. Zoe says no, Kiba. I agree with Ino. Shino. I have concluded that due to the probability of our secret getting loose right now we have a 10% chance. Add in 3 more people and that chance rises about 30%. Also, should they tell anyone they could be the ones deemed insane, or whoever happens to be told would believe them and begin to question us, so I have decided we should not. Yet Kuchi disagrees and says we should allow them to know. Alright, I'm dropping the 3-reason rule now. It's taking too long. Now, Hinata. I think we shouldn't. If I happens to get around and my father found out IW would be questioned, and then I wouldn't be able to lie. Also, I think that we should consider the consequences of say telling them. I apologize, sensei. Also, Tommy says we should tell them. Naruto. I think they should know what's going. Takuya says to let them know too. Skip Sasuke, he's already a no, and Kakashi. Sakura. I think we should tell them. Lee. I say they should know. I mean they are our sensei. Neji. No, I apologize, but if certain things were to get around, Hinata might not be the only one in trouble. Tenten. No, Choji. I think we should tell them. JP says no. The left side of the circle moved slightly, though Choji remained a few feet to Shikamaru's right. Okay, so that's 10 yeses. And 8 no's. Okay, let's tell them. And make a bit of room in our little circle. Everyone pointed at him and asked, so who's going to explain? The 6 children said, all on the Shikamaru. Alright, fine. Well, let's see, since there really is no way to explain it and you still keep your ideas that were somewhat sane, I'll just say it. Pretty much what happened was that 2 weeks ago we all went unconscious. I'm sure you all remember that. Well, after a while we all figured out that there is this kid inside our heads, but the problem is that the kid's soul split or something, so half is inside one of us and the other half in another, and if one of them has an extra link already, then all of them become a sort of group with one big mind link that allows everyone else to know what you're thinking and saying. For instance, Kiba and I are linked through Koji, but since Akamaru was already linked with Kiba, now all 4 of us tend to try and kill each other in our mindscapes. Luckily I have a steep hill to sit on. Kurenai questioned, so who exactly is connected to who? Well, let's see. Ino, Zoe, and Tenten, Naruto, Takuya. A certain someone that I'm not allowed to talk about, and Neji, Lee, JP, and Choji, Hinata, Tommy, and Sakura, Sasuke, Kuchi, and Shino, and of course Kiba, Koji, Akamaru, and myself. Okay, so say that you aren't crazy, and this is real. Then how can you prove it? Replied Asuma. Well, it seems that the kids had their own element. And most of us have figured out how to use it to our advantage. Apparently Sakura had an ice lineage, and Tommy was apparently the warrior of ice, so her bloodline limit was activated. Naruto and Neji tend to singe or sometimes light on fire those that piss them off, including each other. JP and Lee are human lighting rods that can take multiple lightning strikes and not notice. I use light to blind my enemies or extend my shadow. Ino and Tenten use Zoe's powers over wind. And if you didn't notice, the arena get darker when Naruto and Sasuke were fighting, you're blind. Now can I take my nap? Sasuke, you have 2 minutes to get back to the hospital before a nurse looks in. Shino had warned him. What did you do, leave your bugs in the hospital? Sasuke shuddered. No, I left a couple on you. Oh, and 70 seconds left. Sasuke said, I'm going to kill you tonight in our mindscapes, and walked away. I had better go. I need to get up early to do something, said Naruto. I must say that if you fail in your plan, then I would not be surprised, Neji replied. Takuya remarked, he'll succeed. Good luck. Akamaru says to have a backup plan if nothing else, Kiba replied. Yay, Takuya already gave me an idea for that. If I can't convince him by just talking, then I do have pink, blonde, and orange hair dye. I don't think Duck Butt can say no if I put those over his head, especially since he can't get it out. It has to be cut off. The following morning. Early in the morning, Naruto awoke. He was aware that if he worked quickly, he could still persuade Sasuke to assist them in their prank. If not, he would use the hair dye. Hey Sasuke. Kuchi remarked, Naruto sure is chipper today. Sasuke asked irritably, what do you want, Naruto? In a barely audible whisper, Naruto said, I was just wondering if you would like to assist me and a couple of others with some practical jokes. When? I'm supposed to be staying in the hospital for the next 2 days. Tomorrow. Well, I can move well enough. You did a lot of damage, they healed it for the most part, but, well, they don't want the last loyal Uchiha out of their sight until every scrape is gone. Oh, and the nurses are pissed off at you for hurting me. Yay, I kind of found that out when they refused to tell me where you were. Well, I'll be there. I think I have a few prank ideas you might like. Alright, we're meeting at my apartment tonight. Then we'll discuss battle tactics and get supplies. I'm going to be warning the old man today as well, and then I've got a date. You're warning the Hokage? Yay. He knows that even with an entire fleet of ninja chasing me, he can't stop it, so instead I take a special request from him and he only punishes me for half of the pranks. It works quite well. You and the Hokage have the weirdest relationship ever. You call that weird? Try making sense of the conversations Takuya, Neji, me, and a certain someone you have yet to know about somehow get into. Hey old man. You probably should stay in bed tomorrow, and if you don't, then make sure you have a big bottle of aspirin. Naruto replied. Asking, do I want to know? Was the third. No. Not really. I'll still spend the entire day banging my head against my desk. Just make sure to hit the village elders, but they can know it's a special request from me, otherwise I'll get an earful. And I won't punish you for half of the pranks if you get them. Then Naruto said, deal. Hinata was sitting on a park bench. Her attire had not changed much, but she had dropped her coat and replaced her pants with a light yellow skirt, which made her appear much more put together. She immediately stood up when Naruto approached. He appeared to have run all the way to the park and was a little flushed. Hello Naruto. Naruto's face turned a deep scarlet. Naruto grabbed Hinata's hand and said, hey Hinata. Hey, you look nice. Well, come on. This began their date. After walking silently to Ichiraku, they sat down and at last began to converse. Naruto inquired, so what have you been doing? Oh, I trained with Kiba and Shino for a while. What about you? I've been training with Sakura and Sensei. I also made a visit to Sasuke and the old man. Speaking of which, you should stay home tomorrow. Why? I'm not saying, but I advise that you stay home tomorrow. Oh, okay. Oh, and don't be surprised if a bunch of people are pissed off and Neji has disappeared, Naruto stated to her. When Lee arrived at Sakura's house, he was dressed much more elegantly than usual. He wore a nice short sleeve t-shirt and some black shorts with green trim. A few seconds later, Sakura emerged wearing a red shirt that resembled the top of her typical dress and a pink skirt. Hello Sakura, shall we get started? Sure. Sakura inquired, so what have you been doing? Oh, I was training with my team. Guy Sensei left earlier, then I left. I would guess that Neji and Tenten are still sparring. Lee replied. Observing that Lee was not only stepping lighter than a cat but also moving with more grace than one, Sakura remarked, goodness Lee, you're very agile out of that suit. If being more graceful than a cat is even possible. Oh well, I usually have some weights on, but I took them off just for tonight, Lee replied. Oh, how heavy are your weights? I am not sure. I increased the weight of them last week, although I would have to say anywhere from 400 to over 1,000 pounds. That's a little bit excessive, don't you think? While they paused in front of Ichiraku's, Lee remarked, not at all. As I get used to the weights, I can increase the weight and make myself stronger. It is especially important because I cannot use ninjutsu, or genjutsu. He paused to look at Naruto and Hinata as they ate ramen. Furthermore, Hinata was talking more than Naruto. Her voice was not stuttering, and it was normal volume rather than a tiny squeaky whisper. He sat down Sakura on his right after regaining his composure. When Naruto and Hinata finally noticed them, they ordered their ramen. Crawling back into her shell, Hinata said, "Oh hello." Naruto said, "Hello." Lee exclaimed, "Hello Naruto, Hinata." "Hello you too. So Hinata, is this why you've been hiding your thoughts from me and Tommy all day?" W. "Well, I just wanted to have ramen with Naruto. Without it. Any interruption is all." "Oh. B. But. I guess I don't mind you too. Here, why you're good to talk to as well." Kurenai said, "Oh hello Hinata, Naruto, Sakura, and Lee." "Oh Kurenai. Sensei. Hello." She questioned, "So double dating?" W. "Well. Lee and Sakura J. Just got here. Do you have a date? You're dressed a lot nicer than usual." "Yay. Well, I had better go. Tenten and Neji just finished their sparring in the meantime." So Tenten. You want to go get something to eat?" Neji responded. Tenten glanced at him, and she had never seen him so agitated. Hold on, was he asking her out? Indeed, he was. Tenten grinned. "All right." In the office of the Hokage. When Hiruzen Sarutobi saw movement beneath his tower, yes, his tower, he smirked, took out his crystal ball, and watched Kurenai and his son for a few minutes. He was observing his village when he noticed this. He then made the decision to check in on Naruto and was taken aback to discover that he was out on what appeared to be a double date. He checked up on other people who were rumored to be going on dates soon. Tenten and Neji Hyuga were strolling around the town when they learned about the double date. Furthermore, Kiba Inuzuka appeared to have the audacity to ask Ino Yamanaka out. He checked to see if any of the other freshmen or their teachers had received dates, but he was unsuccessful. However, he did see the Suna Kunoichi staring at Sasuke. It was unlikely, however, that Sasuke would ever show interest in women. Neji and Tenten are strolling through the village in search of a dining establishment. Tenten inquired, "So you don't think of this as a date, do you?" "Well, do you?" "Maybe." They went on in uncomfortable silence until they came across Sakura, Lee, Hinata, and Naruto. Neji said, "Hello. So Naruto, is this the reason you've been hiding your thoughts today?" Naruto replied, "Yay. I just wanted it to be me and Hinata. And what about you? Are you and Tenten on a date?" Before Neji had a chance to speak, Tenten said, "Well, we finished training and are hungry. We're kind of looking for a place to eat. Mind if we are here too?" Hinata. "S. Sure, it's okay with Lee and me," Sakura remarked. Alongside Tommy, Zoe, JP, Kuchi, Koji, and Takuya. The words, "Gosh, now we've got a triple date," were spoken simultaneously by Tommy, JP, Takuya, and Zoe. Indeed, Kiba and Ino are enjoying themselves immensely. Furthermore, Kiba is genuinely acting like a gentleman, Koji remarked. "Yes, Shikamaru, Shino, Sasuke, Kakashi, Guy, and Choji make me feel sorry for them. Only they don't have dates," Zoe remarked. Kuchi stated, "In reality, they're all keeping each other company." Koji predicted that Shika would lose it. "Why? I'm beginning to lose it because Kiba was so preoccupied with Ino that he bumped into a pole and his profanity gave Shika a headache. And they're going to find out about the triple date," Koji informed them. "With the dateless guys 10 minutes ago. So, what will we do now?" Kakashi inquired. "Well, why don't we spy on the people that are on dates?" Sasuke offered the idea. "I would love to see how Naruto is doing." Kakashi concurred, saying, "I must say Naruto on a date does sound entertaining." "It sounds like Sakura, Lee, Neji, and Tenten have joined the two for dinner," Choji replied. "What? All right," JP Shikamaru moaned, "triple date. Are you okay, Shikamaru?" Choji inquired. After he stopped moaning, Shikamaru said, "Kiba. And his internal cursing gave me a headache. He was talking with Ino and walked into a pole." Sasuke said, "Okay, well, I'm going to go be entertained," and turned to leave. "I'll also be there," Kakashi remarked. "I need something to add interest to my life." "What precisely are we going to do at this point?" Kurenai asked, and they heard it. Heard the woman say, "Starting in the trees watching Asuma and Kurenai," Kakashi continued. "All right," Shikamaru said, "I have to see this." Guy followed him into the trees, Shino followed, and Choji munched on chips. They all went to spy on the triple date after observing Asuma and Kurenai, only to discover that Ino and Kiba were going to interrupt. Hinata, Naruto, Sakura, Lee, Tenten, and Neji are back. While Hinata and Neji remained silent, Lee, Tenten, Naruto, and Sakura sat there conversing. "Hinata, are you alright? You've been awfully quiet," said Naruto. "Why? Yes. I just don't feel like talking right now, she replied. Well, you seem to have finished your ramen. Would you like to go for a walk? She said, "S. Sure," and they stood there while Naruto gave Ayame some cash for the ramen before they departed. The dateless guys are back. They all hid on the other side of a rooftop and watched as Kiba and Ino walked toward Naruto and Hinata, and to their surprise, they were talking. Hinata more than Naruto, and she wasn't even stuttering. Lee and Sakura also left, going toward Sakura's house, while Neji and Tenten began talking after everyone had left. With Kiba and Ino. "Kiba, do you feel like someone is watching us?" "Yay, sort of," expressed Kiba. She walked over to Naruto and Hinata and said, "Hey Naruto and Hinata. I have an idea." "Hello Ino, K Kiba. Hi. Do any of you suspect that someone is watching us?" Kiba inquired. "Actually, yay," said Naruto. "Why? Yes," as though hoping they would tell her something, Ino said, "Come walk with us and just talk about random things." They continued to talk until they turned a corner, at which point they stopped. "All right, Naruto. I want you to make 4 shadow clones and 3 of them henge into me, Kiba, and Hinata." Once more with the dateless guys. "Should we follow them around the corner, or should we follow Sakura and Lee, or we could watch Neji and Tenten?" Kakashi responded. Sasuke said, "I think we should go spy on Naruto, Hinata, Kiba, and Ino. Twice the couples, twice the entertainment." Suddenly, the 4 individuals mentioned above returned from the corner they had taken. Choji exclaimed, "Oh look, there they are." Yes. With a frying pan in hand, Ino appeared behind them and said, "Here we are." Where did the frying pan come from? Naruto stepped back and asked her. "Oh, Ayame was more than willing to lend me her extra, large iron frying pan." "Crap, what a drag. Shikamaru, go away, you dupe. I guess tonight just isn't going well. Hello, what are you doing in this place?" When Ino knocked them all out with the frying pan, Guy stopped his tirade about youth and the flames of youth. Shikamaru was already asleep, and when he closed his eyes, he didn't even remember what they were supposed to be doing. Munch munch, then Naruto's chakra cut off, and he slipped off the roof, barely clinging before falling 30 feet. After dropping Hinata off at home, Naruto went straight home, but he still needed to get some coffee so Neji, Kiba, and Sasuke could keep up with him. Naruto had learned at a young age that he could survive on 10 minutes of sleep if necessary, but it took a lot of effort to get Hinata to come out of her shell. Perhaps a nap would suffice. "Naruto. Wake up." After Takuya failed to wake the boy, Neji said, giving him a gentle kick. What? 5 minutes later, Naruto, wearing a henge and carrying 4 bags of chocolate and some drinks, said, "Oh. It's just you guys." He sounded almost relieved as he said, "Well, now that I've had a nap I'll be right back." The henge was very effective. "What made you henge?" Kiba inquired. "Well," Naruto said, "I would have been expelled if I had entered as myself. The last time I had coffee and chocolate, everyone woke up with various, extremely embarrassing pranks." Neji blushed as she recalled that day. "What's causing your pinkness?" Sasuke inquired. He filled several buckets with paint, wax, feathers, and flour that day, and by the time I finally succeeded in opening my room's door, wait, scratch that. The thing that always struck me as odd was that Hinata never got pranked. Why did she always get left alone? You tended to target the Hyuga clan more often than not. By the time my uncle opened the door to my room to check if I had been hit with the rest of the clan, I was completely covered in all of that stuff. Well, at least she never gave me a glare or anything. She even gave me a couple of smiles and appeared remorseful when. What time? Oh, nothing, we'd better get planning, then. We'll get supplies after that. But all of the stores we could get supplies from are closed already, Neji replied. Oh, don't worry. They're always aware of when to avoid opening. It occurs when they discover a stack of cash on the counter and missing items. And they don't mind that. Silent agreement that they don't write me out, and I'll not prank them, and if they stay closed it's likely they won't get any of us in there. All right. What precisely are we going to do, then? Well, I've already considered the best way to get things started. All we need to do now is finish up. They didn't think an evil glint could even enter Naruto's blue eyes, but he said, Oh, and Sasuke, I have a very special task for you. I'm on board. She will be caught, isn't that right? As Naruto nodded, Kiba uttered those words with an extremely malevolent smirk. 11 p.m. After finishing his assignment, Sasuke went back to Naruto's apartment. He couldn't exactly say he didn't want to do it after learning what he was expected to do because he really wanted to. What was the outcome? Kiba questioned him. Oh, everything went perfectly, and she had no suspicions. She was also about to take a shower, so it came just in time. Dude, I'm getting tired. Naruto offered a chocolate bar and a drink. And he also gave Neji and Kiba the same thing while giving Akamaru a caffeinated dog treat. I'm not sure where he got the caffeinated dog treat, but Naruto and Neji thought of it. In my mind, as they try to kill me by using Kyuubi's chakra. Alright. So Neji, Kiba, Koji, Akamaru, Takuya and I have been talking about ideas and we've finished, but before we get supplies I'm curious as to if you have any ideas. Koji and Takuya simultaneously exclaimed, Oh, I have one, simultaneously. What? Pink hair dye on a certain clan. You know which one I'm referring to, Takuya replied. You know that Anko Midarashi. You should switch one of her meals with something totally disgusting. Well, I heard something interesting about Lee. And very possibly Guy because Lee has been copying him. They wear weights. So I wonder what happens if we quadruple them. That I must see. They might actually let up on their insane training schedule, Neji replied. What do you call an insane training schedule? Asked Kiba. Well, first they get up at 4 in the morning and do anywhere from 100.500 laps around the village, 200.700 push-ups. Then sometime around 6.7 in the morning Tenten and I have to be there and tend to somehow get into their insane schedule. And Lee tends to hammer me with his weights when we're sparring. And they just keep getting heavier. I think they're getting on towards 1,000 pounds. And if he happens to get to take them off they make holes in the ground when he drops them. From 3 feet in the air. They were staring at him. Wow. Let's just go to the store, Naruto exclaimed, leaping up with far more vigor than normal. Did you have sugar? Sasuke inquired before asking. What do you mean? You're being much more energetic than usual. So I wanted to have some chocolate. There's nothing wrong with that. Yes, there is. You're going to be 10 times more energetic. Actually, only about 5 times. The old man and I actually tested it a few years ago. It took about 4 hours but he finally couldn't go anymore and I was still moving for the next 5 hours. I pretty much don't need sleep. Their looks were odd. What? It's true. Takuya said, It is. I stumbled into a memory him staying up through an entire night, training, before muttering. Though some of the other memories I've gotten into have really shaken me. Neji walked to the door and said, Let's just go. Takuya, what did you just say? Neji questioned him. We're going through the window. I want all of the locks done up while I'm not here. Sasuke remarked, Naruto, you're hiding something. Sasuke, drop it. Neji yelled abruptly, violently, and without any prior notice or opportunity for inquiry. Oh, so you know? Well, considering we now share the secret, yes I know. Neji, it's fine, and if you want to tell Tenten and Lee, I decided it's not fair to you if you're holding something like that back from them. Gosh Naruto, you sound so upset about whatever this is. And I've only ever heard you mad. Upset. Not disturbed. Upset, Kiba responded. Look Kiba, if Naruto doesn't want to tell you he doesn't have to, it's his choice, Koji barked. So it sounds like Koji knows too. And Kuchi, I didn't know he knew the words he just used. I didn't even know them, Sasuke replied. Akamaru, can you smell anything different about him? Asked Kiba. Yes. Naruto looked pleadingly at the puppy and asked, Well, what is it? I'll keep it a secret. You must solve it on your own. Akamaru, but, no buts, biting is what those are for. Kiba stopped talking after saying that. Naruto. Sasuke began, sounding as if he was having trouble completing his sentence. What? Naruto's eyes widened as Sasuke used the word teammates. We're teammates. If something's going on, at least Sakura and I should know, he said. Sasuke and Kiba nodded, while Neji simply sighed and collapsed back onto the bed to nap. Okay. I'll tell you. But you can't tell anyone else. I'm the only one that can tell them. Do you remember history when Iruka-sensei would babble on and on about when the Nine Tails attacked the village? They both replied. Well, the truth is that wasn't history. That was a lie set up by the old man to hide the truth. Iruka-sensei was only teaching what he was supposed to, that the thing was killed. But in truth it was sealed inside. Inside M.me. And now the seal. And the back of Kyuubi's cage has transferred to me as well. Takuya is powering the missing halves on each of us. Neji said. Although it does make for a good show when I'm stuck watching Naruto, and a fox about 100 times his size, in a shouting match. Fluffy keeps calling me runt. It's so annoying, Naruto exclaimed, returning to his usual demeanor in an instant. Wasn't he fuzzball yesterday? Yesterday. Today it's Fluffy. Okay. Well, we only have an hour before she screams, so we should hurry, Sasuke replied. When exactly did you set her alarm for? Sasuke replied, 6 in the morning. so we have to plan this perfectly. Sakura's alarm began to buzz, waking her. Why was it set for 6 in the morning? She turned it off, reset it, and lay down again, but a mirror was rigged above her bed. She noticed something strange about her hair, so she got out of bed, turned on the light, and looked in the wall-mounted mirror to see that her hair was green. Then she screamed, the most horrifyingly high-pitched sound the village had ever heard, and chaos broke out. The signal is that, after Naruto finished speaking, they all went off in different directions to complete their tasks. The Nara compound, 6:01 a.m. Sakura sure knows how to wake the entire village, Shikamaru said as he bounded out of bed and headed to his window. Her house is on the other side of the village. Whoa, what a stalker! Koji inquired, allowing a smirk to infiltrate his voice. I got a map of the village a few years ago, so I know where everyone lives, so it doesn't matter if I know where she lives. And you recall everything? Yeah, I do. You're insane, and scarily good at remembering information at the same time. It sounds like the rest of the clan is also up and out of bed, so I'm going to go downstairs and eat now that I'm awake. Oh, and it's too much trouble to stalk someone. Well, after that scream, yay. Koji replied. Tommy says it's still echoing in his head, and it being troublesome does sound too much like you to be a lie. Shikamaru said, great. As he descended the stairs and entered the kitchen, oblivious to Naruto placing something on his bed in his room. The office of the Hokage, 6:01 a.m. The Hokage leapt to his feet and said, oh no, I need to stop dozing off at my desk. It hurts my back. He made the decision to observe Naruto's activities since he was already awake. 6:10 a.m. As the real clan sat discussing how to deal with the wailing kunoichi, he peered through the ball and saw Naruto adding itching powder to every bed in the Nara compound. 7:03 a.m. He stopped watching Naruto and glanced out the window just in time to see Neji Hyuga walk by, letting weapons fall out of his arms as Tenten chased him, yelling bloody murder. He then checked in on Naruto's most likely accomplice, Kiba Inuzuka, who had been caught pulling practical jokes with him on multiple occasions. He was shocked to see that Kiba had a partner in crime, as he threw out any meat, chips, and unhealthy items in the Akamichi kitchen, replacing them with greens, with Sasuke Uchiha assisting him. 8:44 a.m. Hiruzen had to quickly put his ball away when the three elders from the village barged into his office. Do you know what just happened to Naruto Uzumaki? As the blonde walked past the window toward the Yamanaka compound, hair dye in hand, Kaharu yelled at the three of them, glaring at him as a group of ninja followed and tried to apprehend him. They rushed out to find someone who could and would actually catch the boy. Well, I would say he used red itching powder, orange paint, blue sparkles, and to top it all off, golden feathers. He must have gotten his hands on some sugar. Then, removing his ball once more, Hiruzen peered in on Neji and saw that he was preparing to play a practical joke on Naruto. A random section of the village, 8:45 a.m. Having heard what Kakashi had done when he first tested Squad 7, Neji smirked as he finished setting up his trap and hanged. Shortly after, as he had anticipated, Naruto's foot touched the ground, allowing the rope to wrap around his ankle and raise him off the ground, leaving him hanging helplessly in midair. Oh no. You were just pursuing me, Kakashi. Sensei. How did you manage to avoid me? Kakashi was pursuing you, but you were moving more quickly? Neji stared at him incredulously as she asked, dropping the henge. Neji. Well, I should. Please, just calm me down. Neji, who had been expecting the blonde to attack him, smirked and said, all right. He let go of the rope he was holding and let gravity take care of the rest. What no yelling? I apologize. Just behind me is Kaka. Sensei. Good. Bye, I'll see you later. After saying this, he took off, managed to conceal his chakra so Kakashi couldn't find him, and landed next to Neji a few seconds later. Are you able to see Naruto? Yes. What has he done to you, may I ask? Kakashi uttered an ominous statement, he stole my precious. What do you value most? Neji inquired, my book. Neji pointed directly ahead and said, oh well, in that case he went that way. Of course, he wasn't writing Naruto out. In reality, his friend had gone right. As he headed in the direction he hoped Naruto was in, Kakashi said, oh thanks. As he rewrote Kakashi's book, Naruto chuckled evilly, attached it to a fishing rod, lowered it in front of his sensei, dropped the rod's end, and fled. Kakashi opened the book, terrified of what he would discover, and joined the Anbu, root agents, and other irate ninja who were attempting to kill him. MWA ha ha ha. I'll never be caught. As he dashed across the rooftops, Naruto exclaimed. Uzumaki Naruto. I promise that you will wish we had never met when I get my hands on you. As the blonde dropped the torn remnants of his book behind him, Kakashi screamed. Just as long as you can catch me, and I don't think you can. I had coffee and chocolate. He laughed and swerved to the left, heading for his next stop. Not far from the Hyuga compound, 10:15 a.m. just outside the Hyuga clan compound, Kiba waited for Naruto while perched in a tree. Where are you, Naruto? Come on. This very moment. I apologize for taking so long, but I think we'll need some assistance with this one. I grabbed Sasuke on the way. Kiba responded, yeah, I agree with you there. Naruto dropped 3 bags and said, alright. So here is everything we have. A clone then dropped 3 more bags. We have feathers, paint, buckets, toothpaste, tiny exploding tags, glitter, hair dye, lint, feathers, and bleach. Sasuke looked at Naruto as he asked, but Kiba was the one who responded. Kiba smirked and said, you pour it in their drawers. Ah. Naruto. Kakashi shouted as he attempted to assault the boy and ended up hitting his face with an uprooted tree. What did you do, Naruto? Sasuke inquired. I stole, wrote, and shredded his book. He's going to kill you. Are you crazy? How long did it take him to arrive here? I'll be alright. The 3 boys had already departed with their supplies by the time Kakashi reached the tree, and he was afraid to follow them for fear of upsetting the entire Hyuga clan. 10:20 a.m. Alright, so I'll take that whole space and have some special plans for Hinata's room. Naruto said, Kiba can take the back area like always, and Sasuke you can have what's left. Kiba nodded and took off, and he too took off to do his work while sensing the change in the air as Sasuke moved in the opposite direction. Naruto walked into a hallway and proceeded to slowly make his way through the numerous rooms, decorating them along the way. He was certain that he would recognize Hinata's room because she loved flowers a lot, so he assumed that there would be plenty of them in her room. Before long, he discovered a room filled with flowers, on the tables, in a few pictures, and even on the bed linens. He walked around the room, figuring out how to rig it, then used hooks on sticky pads to hold up the string, then set the plastic balls to pop open as soon as they moved more than an inch, before departing through the window. Okay. Neji, send her in. All right, Neji said, leaving Hinata in front of her door before proceeding down the hall to his own room, only to discover that it had been damaged, with a bucket of paint falling on his head as soon as he entered. If I ever find out who did that, they will wish they were never born, Neji said. Kiba succeeded. Writing the poor boy out, Takuya said. Thank you, Takuya. I believe I know how to exact revenge. Oh, may I be of assistance? Inquired Naruto. Why not? The Inuzuka compound, 3:45 p.m. After exchanging smiles, Naruto and Neji started dropping the skunks and stink pellets they had purchased into the Inuzuka compound. A short distance from the Inuzuka compound, 4 p.m. It was hilarious, I must say, Naruto said, laughing on the ground, but he was startled to his feet when he felt a stream of fire touch his face. You're getting faster. Wow. Neji simply shook his head as he continued his last prank, which involved fingering the melatonin bottle in his pocket, after Naruto said, taking off. Second training ground, 4:30 p.m. Hello Lee, sensei. Hi, Neji. What are you in need of? Neji would have been flat on the ground if he had been a civilian, Guy said, loudly slapping his back. Neji held out 2 cups of fruit smoothie that Naruto had somehow obtained, but he suspected he had made them himself because he only ever seemed to go to Ichiraku and the barbecue restaurant. Well, I just thought you two would want some drinks. Neji said. More like biased idiots kick him out everywhere else. Many thanks, Guy said. Lee gave a grateful nod, and they quickly devoured them. Neji said, Naruto is about to be severely injured by Kakashi, I should probably go and keep that from happening. Neji sat in a tree waiting for the results of the sleeping drugs, and soon after Guy and Lee were unconscious, he got to work, making their weights very strange, so that one side was about 500 pounds lighter and the other was about 500 pounds heavier. Then, he waited for the results, and soon after, the two woke up, the melatonin not taking too long to affect them, but the fact that they were rooted to the ground with one foot while the other was flailing helplessly. After Neji had finished taking some pictures and laughing, he finally left the area towards the meeting place, also known as the Hokage Monument. 5:45 without anyone noticing, Neji walked into the monument directly behind the faces, and when he turned to look around, he saw that Naruto was 3 minutes behind him. Why is there dinner, snacks, sleeping bags, a kitchen, running water, a bathroom, and essentially a whole house, Naruto? Are you a resident? Sasuke inquired. No, I simply spend a night here following the major pranking outbursts, and I'm fairly certain that I'll be staying here tonight. Kaka. Sensei is still after me, but I don't think he's going to try to roast me anymore. Instead, He's going to try to destroy my ninja career with a lightning strike. I believe I'll remain here as well. After today, I would prefer not to see how my room looks. I don't see any reason not to stay here tonight, Sasuke replied. I believe I'm heading home. If I'm not home by curfew, Mom and Hana will send their dogs after me. Actually, Neji and I had a bit too much fun at your house. How awful was it? Well, let's just say your mom was much more scared than when I threatened to drink coffee. Skunks, stink pellets. We used those as our tools. Neji remarked. Your mother and sister ended up trying to hide from the stench by hiding behind a fortress of pillows with their dogs. Have you gotten any photos? Kiba asked with enthusiasm. Yes, in this very spot. Holding out 10 pictures, Naruto remarked. I always get pictures of my victims. It makes good blackmail later. He propped the 10 pictures on the table, then some on the floor, and said, you can pick as many as you like while you eat. They're great for getting someone off your back. Is Uncle Hiyashi there? Naruto held out the pictures and said, oh yay, I had too much fun with the paint. Oh, and I got 3 other people with the paint. And snips. They continued to choose pictures until they eventually began to yawn, bored with the activity of picture trading. So, is Naruto, Fuzzball, the cause of your excessive chakra? Yay. The old man told me so once. How about your capacity for healing? That I think so too. What about the whiskers? I've asked the old man about them several times, but he says it's not the right time, so I'm not sure. I'd like to know. How about in the wave? Land? Even though that Haku kid was much superior to us, you managed to get us both out of there. Well, for one, I don't think he actually wanted to kill either of us, hence the reason you woke up. However, how did we escape without you also pretending to die? Oh, well, you see, after you supposedly died, I guess my anger, it sort of released a bit of Fluffy's chakra, and I don't really remember much other than stopping before killing Haku, and then the rest you probably know. No, I don't. Sakura and I were both really drunk, and my sensei won't tell me. I've also been reluctant to ask you. Well, Haku asked me to kill him because he didn't see himself as useful to Zabuza anymore. Well, Zabuza was about to be killed, and instead Haku took his place. Alright, I know the end result. Idiot, stop getting depressed, it's too Naruto for my liking. They spoke for a few more minutes before saying, alright. Neji said, well, let's get to bed. He had already rolled out his sleeping bag, and the other 3 agreed, taking their sleeping bags and placing them on the floor. Sasuke slept in the corner that was furthest away from Naruto, and he put in earplugs before turning in. Kiba and Neji went about their daily routines before bed, which included breathing, stretching, and brushing his hair. Naruto left before any of them had fallen asleep during his conversation. Get up, runt. Kurama used a string of chakra to awaken his host and say, we have visitors. Who? With a shout and a leap, Naruto's gaze swiftly located Kiba, Shikamaru, Shino, Sasuke, Akamaru, and 2 unfamiliar boys, Koji and Kuchi. Is this your mindscape, Naruto? Sasuke inquired. Yay. It's awfully morbid, yes, I do agree, and I believe I explore a lot here. As Takuya entered Kurama's cage, he remarked, and then there are the annoying rooms that have no floor and no light to tell you so. For all the times you've nearly given me a heart attack by sulking over the Kurama thing, Takuya, could I kill you right now? Koji inquired. Hey, I don't exist. I'm a natural force, and if I want to, I can eat you, Kurama shouted. Whoa, come on, give me a hug, it's okay. When I first met Koji, I also wanted to kill him, Takuya remarked. Oh no. You are a brat. I swear that I will kill you if I ever escape this cage. Oh, I know you love me deep down inside, and this is the reason Neji never comes in here, said Naruto. Kurama said slyly, yes, because you're annoying runt. I promise you're dead if I ever get the chance. After 2 minutes, they engaged in a full-on glaring match, and Kiba was on the ground laughing. Funny, I just had the same train of thought, Kurama said. Where is Neji's mindscape, then? Oh, there's a door between our mindscapes. Naruto snapped his head back behind him and said, and I'll be back to my contest with you in a minute. Sasuke asked, and Naruto broke away from his glaring contest. Humph. I don't give a shit. Whatever, Kit, Naruto boasted with a sly grin. Hey, you lowly run. Get back here now. Yay, whatever. I'll be with you shortly. As Takuya passed the door where the others had gone, he remarked, as soon as I finish exploring for the day. Is it okay if we accompany him? Kuchi inquired. Feel free, just don't touch anything. Last time Takuya did that he ended up not waking up for almost 4 months, or several days in real life. So that was the wonderful silence we experienced. Who were Sasuke, Akamaru, Takuya, Shikamaru, Shino, and Kiba? Neji inquired. I'm Koji. I'm Kuchi Kimura. Together, they declared, we're twins. You know, it's still unsettling when you do that, Takuya inquired. Yay, we know, but it's fun to creep out our, oh so optimistic and fearless leader, they repeated in unison. Takuya said, okay, well, let's just go. So, why are all of you here? The new ninja was asked by Neji. Well, I discovered a door in my mindscape when I woke up, opened it, and found myself in Naruto's mindscape. Sasuke remarked, then we followed the evil chuckling. Kiba remarked, same here. I wonder if a person and I can form a bond as we get closer. I hope you don't have to deal with the Nine Tails chakra. Being a drainpipe for the excess is not enjoyable. Knowledge? Sasuke inquired. I fainted from the agony in the forest of death. After Naruto became so enraged that some of the seal escaped, something happened to it. Perhaps it weakened. Yes, that guy from Orochimaru did something to ruin it. I can no longer control my chakras at all. I can't even get the proper number of shadow clones. I've made a few too many and had to dispel them a few times. Either I get too little or I get too much. Oh, and I need to go irritate that thing some more, Naruto said, stepping to the right of the door they had just come out of. But Neji stopped him and with a glare got the blonde two turned around, going back to his mindscape. It's not fair, I can't sit in my mindscape. What prevents him from sitting in his mindscape? Shikamaru inquired. Kyuubi's chakra is infused into the water, causing it to function similarly to acid. You will undoubtedly get burned if you sit in it. The first time I was there, I discovered that the hard way. Huh. At that moment, Takuya opened the door and Koji and Kuchi entered. I told you to be careful of rooms with no floors, Takuya replied. Well, I listened, but you could have at least told us it would get darker, Koji replied. Kuchi said, please don't fight. If you decide to fight, you can join Naruto in his mindscape, Neji replied. Well, take a look at that, the children of darkness and light are here as well, said Burning Greymon. That's good, said Agunimon. Burning Greymon remarked, it took a long time to think this day would arrive. Takuya pondered, well, I was wondering when you two would appear. The spirits of light and darkness are now very close, which is why we were called. Their presence is palpable. Thus, we arrived to observe the situation, Burning Greymon stated. All right. Could it be that Kuchi and Koji are present? As Naruto returned to Neji's mindscape, Takuya inquired. Nope, we are no longer bound together as humans and spirits. In fact, you are no longer truly human. Instead, you're more like ghosts. In a matter of seconds, Naruto was sitting 20 feet up in a tree. Naruto, are you bothered by that? No, I believe it does. You should keep Kurama in the dark. Kurama appeared on Neji's side of the cage and said, I already know, that runt's been afraid of the word since he found out what it means. Just another reason the brat isn't worthy to be container, not to mention he's tiny and weak. Will you just shut up? Why? Because? If you were unable to guess, Takuya said, Fuzzy Snuggles, you have been a bit harsh. At least my previous Jinchuriki was more appropriate for demonstrating my strength. She was strong enough to at least speak for me, even though I didn't particularly enjoy being shackled. I'm furious that this brat would be confined to something so small and frail because he is weak and constantly fleeing from everything. So perhaps you ought to have refrained from attacking the village. Have you ever considered that? In the beginning, that wasn't me. It was a Sharingan user who made me do it. I was forced to attack the village because the Sharingan has the ability to control tailed beasts. Actually, my only goal upon being released was to get out of there as soon as possible, ideally to a location where I would be untraceable and sealed once more. However, Uchiha gave me the order to destroy it as soon as I was totally free. After a seal was applied to the Sharingan user, I was set free, but my hatred for your village outweighs my desire for freedom. I am treated like a mindless mass devoid of feelings or will. However, that dangerous Hokage eventually convinced my former Jinchuriki to assist him in enclosing me within you. I attempted to destroy you after realizing what they were doing, but they stopped me by catching my claw and absorbing the wound. The Hokage then sealed me inside of you using the seal of the dead demon consuming. Therefore, you did it yourself as well. There's absolutely no point in that, Naruto grumbled. It does, in fact, make a point. I wasn't totally to blame. If I hadn't already attacked and successfully destroyed your village, I might not have attempted to complete the task after being released from authority. In fact, I would have run away and never come back to your nation. The only issue is that the person who set me free and then took control of me might have simply followed me and ordered me to demolish your village anyhow. Indeed, I am aware that he is still trying to manipulate me, but it is more difficult, much more difficult with a human host in between. Naruto sat down to reflect. Naruto? Are you thinking? What are you doing? Yes, wonderful. What are you contemplating? I just want to know why Fuzzy's last container would die in my place, along with the Hokage. Do you know why? I would have been doing the world a favor to wipe this village full of idiots off the map. Kurama swore at the ignorance of, well, everyone. It's unbelievable how stupid humans are because of little facts like having a demon sealed inside your gut. Unhappy demons in particular. I'm amazed that nobody has ever recognized it. Shikamaru's figured it out, but he won't go around telling everyone about it because the Hokage told him not to, Koji replied. I told you that at what time? You mutter strange things while you're asleep. Really, man-eating penguins? Do you have a fear of penguins or something? They can be Sharingan, fire, breathing, or gravity. Controlling. Koji inquired. If nothing else, you can ask Shoji for details. His mind is connected to mine, so you have to go through Naruto's mindscape, then Kiba's, then mine, and then there's a door that leads to his. Before I became a genin and was leaving the village, I had only gone outside the wall once with my dad. We went to the land of snow. And yes, I developed a fear of penguins after a traumatic experience. Try not to step on any dog poop while in Kiba's mindscape, and just knock in case he's sleeping. Well, back on topic. Kurama thought. Nara brat, I want you to prove you know what you're saying. It's easy. I used 4 facts to figure it out. 1. Following his passing, all images of the 4th Hokage were seized. Only 2 remain, one in the Hokage's office and the other in the library of the Nara clan. 2. Kushina Uzumaki, who comes to Konoha for almost no reason, is originally from another village. 3. Kushina Uzumaki, who was abducted for an unidentified reason at the age of 7. 4. On October 10th, Naruto was born. That was the exact night the Kyuubi attacked the village. The 4th Hokage is said to have killed it in the battle. Several people also reported that he was carrying a newborn into the direct line of devastation. Strange. Not in my opinion. I went to the Hokage after I figured it out, and he gave me the rest of the details, since I had promised to keep it a secret because it was an S-class secret. Do you all understand, then? I'm impressed, Kurama uttered sadly. Naruto uttered, I don't get it. Your mom was Kushina Uzumaki, and your dad was the 4th Hokage, Shikamaru sighed. So then, and, Naruto fainted upon hearing Shikamaru's words. Are you all content? If so, I'm exhausted from talking so much and would like to take a nap. Kurama remarked, you only spoke 181 words. No wonder Naruto's always shouting in his sleep, you're truly annoying. As the blonde boy faded in front of their eyes, Neji remarked, well, it seems as though Naruto is waking up. If he has running water, he can practically live there. Naruto woke up and saw that it was still very early. He checked his alarm clock that he kept there. 4 o'clock in the morning. He said, well, I'm not sure I want to go back to them after fainting like I did, so I think that I'll just make breakfast, then I'll go and check in my apartment. Hopefully it isn't too much of a wreck this time, and crept over to the small kitchen area. He opened the door of his small refrigerator and swore as quietly as he could. There was nothing in it because he had ended up emptying it after his last visit to the monument and unplugged it. I guess I'll just have to go get supplies right now, he said, leaving the monument and heading to the store, where he was fortunate to find his friend, who always took first shift, standing at the counter. He walked around the store, silently grabbing the things he needed before going to the counter. Hi, Tomoko. With a smile, he said. Hi Naruto, just so you know I've been able to hear you the entire time you've been in here. Really? Oh no. He tended to try to make her laugh, and guess what? It was working. Tomoko giggled a little at his reaction as he snapped his fingers for effect. What are your plans for today? Let's see, milk, eggs, bacon, and rice. She pondered and mentally added it up before Naruto carefully counted out the amount and placed it in her hand. Okay, let's see, she said. Thank you. Since I haven't visited my apartment yet, I may need to work on it for a while. I'll leave you a list of the things I need, and someone from Team 5 can assist you in getting everything there later. As long as it's finished and doesn't cause any trouble for you guys, I don't care when, Naruto remarked. It's never a problem, Naruto. We take pleasure in doing it. You get groceries, I leave the store, and one or all of Team 5 gets a break. We take pleasure in assisting you, especially since nobody else does. Many thanks, Tomoko. You are amazing. To Naruto's embarrassment, Takuya said. I hope she doesn't rock more than Hinata, especially since you really liked her. He heard laughter and a growl in the background. It was likely Neji, as he and Naruto had a lengthy conversation during which Neji reluctantly began attempting to get to like Hinata. It was going well. And why aren't both of them rocking? Takuya answered, I suppose you have a point there. Oh Tomoko, before I go, just a warning ahead of time, I'm going to be training today, then I'll be around to pick you up. It'll probably be later than expected, so you know. She said, okay. He smiled at her and walked out of the store. Now, before you start thinking that Tomoko is strange or bad, let me tell you that she is a friend who has some issues and isn't allowed to go out alone. Otherwise, it would ruin the chapter I have written on paper, which is 10 pages long. That's right, handwritten. Booyah. When Naruto got back, he immediately got to cooking. He made fairly large breakfast, and made a note in case the others woke up before he got back. He stuck it on Neji's forehead and promptly left to check on his apartment. Promptly as in fast enough that Neji had no time to wake up and kill him for sticking the note on his forehead, even with 3 locks on the door, and a second-story window. People tended to break in a lot. He figured there were lock pickers that opened his door, then they were able to enter. It got significantly worse when he went on a pranking spree, but he needed something to push his limits, otherwise he didn't get much stronger. But he had felt fairly drained the night before, so he hoped that he would be slightly stronger. He entered the apartment warily, surveying the area and watching around him with every step he took. He knew someone had been in the small apartment because one of his plants was out of place. He slowly made his way, moving around traps that had been left with practiced ease. Anyone who would have seen him without knowing what he was doing might have even thought he was dancing. When he entered his kitchen after concluding that they must have all been sprung, he found food strewn everywhere. Just as he had anticipated, he had assumed it would be this messy at this point. When Kiba and Sasuke weren't around to witness it, Neji sat up and gave a little yawn. His eyes widened at the smell of something freshly cooked, and he discovered the note on his forehead and tore it off. I made breakfast, so it's in the refrigerator, but you'll have to have it cold. I'm busy doing something right now, but I'll be back to eat later, so enjoy the food. Hey, I left this just in case you woke up before I got back. Neji, before you declare war, the only reason I put it on your forehead was because I wanted it somewhere it would be noticed. Naruto had just finished cleaning to the same level as before, though he doubted he would want to use his arm too much for the next few hours due to a very painful trap he had missed and eventually triggered. Nevertheless, he made a list of groceries and left some money on the kitchen counter, and since Tomoko was one of the few people who actually had a set of keys to his apartment, she could enter whenever she wanted. He stopped by the store and slipped the note onto the counter before anyone noticed, and then headed to the monument to get breakfast, assuming there was any left. Just me. I must say that whatever you prepared smells good. You're all very fortunate. I am deprived of food, Takuya remarked angrily. You should hurry before Kiba, Akamaru, and Sasuke wake up, or you might starve, especially considering how much you eat. Already here, Naruto said as he entered the room, and after finding the food in the refrigerator, which was cold, he placed it in front of Neji while kicking Kiba and Sasuke to wake them up. Following a satisfying breakfast, Naruto let the other 3 finish their meal before leaving to attend his lesson with Jiraiya.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.